explain those Badlands. That's a hell of a name.
River announces Bitcoin interest on cash. Now, US dollars in your River account will earn a high yield interest rate that can be paid in Bitcoin. With the price of groceries, mortgage, and tuition on a steep rise, people are now looking at a retirement age of 80 instead of 60, and it's all because dollars are losing value at a record pace. The challenge is finding a way to hold onto your dollar while still getting ahead. That's where River Bitcoin comes in. River Bitcoin's interest on cash protects your dollars with FDIC insurance while offering you the option to reap the potential gains of Bitcoin. Over the past 2 years, you would have earned 2 times the rate of most high-yield savings accounts and 16 times the rate of the national average savings account with Bitcoin interest on cash. Get started now at badlandsmedia.tv/river. Move your cash to River today and start earning a real interest rate with Bitcoin. All right, let's get started with the brief, my dear friends. Thank you so much for joining me. As you can see, my studio is still a work in progress. Nevertheless, here we are. I got this light thingy that's supposed to make me look prettier, but it's not producing enough light for this room right now, so I'm still using the murderous overhead light. What I might do is get some kind of light diffuser. Not 100% certain. Do me a favor, hit that thumbs up. Really helps when you do that. I've got the microphone in the shot. I don't know what to do about that. We'll figure it out. It's all coming together. I've got 3 more packets of these sound deadeners coming today, so we're going to make this room sound even better. In the meantime, what do you say we get started? Brought to you 5 days a week at badlands.substack.com, the news brief, international deal making, and collectible pennies. This episode brought to you by Ash in America. First, from X.com, the White House account. White House launches MAGA Minute.
Welcome to the MAGA Minute. It's been a huge week here at the White House, and let's go over the wins President Trump delivered on behalf of you, the American people. On immigration, illegal migrant encounters between the ports of entry are down nearly 87%. On the economy, President Trump laid out a plan to establish a sovereign wealth fund to better invest the more than $5 trillion in assets held by the United States. He also proposed tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico and China, and those tariffs were swiftly paused after our allies agreed to step up and address these issues. We are streamlining USAID into the State Department. President Trump signed a historic executive order to ban men in women's sport. Lastly, President Trump is already making our military strong again. Army recruitment in the month of December, with the anticipation of President Trump's return to the Oval Office, hit a 15-year high. We'll see you for next week's MAGA Minute.
Our take. The White House is evolving their communications. And it's a smart play. Social media has rapidly changed the way people consume information. And this is White House comms in a TikTok form. Now, I could opine on how this reinforces the low attention spans and how we need to encourage people to engage in long-form content to promote critical thinking. That's true. But the realities of the American attention span are what they are. The White House is grabbing mind share by meeting people where they are. Smart. And from her comments, it appears the press secretary will be delivering the MAGA Minute weekly, summarizing the accomplishments as they come. It's a gift, really, because the accomplishments are coming so fast, it's hard to keep up. Ash in America. I'll comment, they're making her, they're trying to make Caroline Leavitt look older with her makeup. You know, I don't care. If you're 27, look 27. How much longer are you going to look 27? Anyway, they're clearly making her up to look older. from scmp.com. China-Russia ties. Xi to visit Moscow to mark Soviet World War II victory over Germany. Chinese President Xi Jinping will attend Moscow's Victory Day in May to mark the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, according to Russian media outlet TASS. Xi has reportedly accepted Russia's invitation to attend the annual celebration of the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in 1945, according to the report, which cited Igor Morgulov, Russia's ambassador to China. Last month, Russian President Vladimir Putin told Xi that the two countries, quote, should jointly celebrate the occasion as China and Russia had worked more closely together in the face of Western pressure. South China Morning Post. Our take. What if China, Russia, and others are coordinating with POTUS to eliminate the NWO? This is my favorite statement, posing as a question in the Q drops. And it inspired my earliest writings in the InfoWar. Righteous Russia, it's Burning Bright's Substack series, explored this question from one side as Donald Trump and Vladimir Putin continue to effect a masterful pincer move on the globalist deep state. But the war for peace takes more than two to tango. And it's not a tango. Just pick another metaphor. And so, Doomed Dynasty is my take on China's pivotal role in the emergent and increasingly apparent sovereign alliance. What can an exploration of the empire of Enigma and its polarizing leader tell us about the past, present, and future of the multipolar world, then? Quite a bit. As it turns out, read more. Read more. Doomed Dynasty. So go to the burningbright.substack.com to check out a longer feature on this from Burning Bright. Next, from the BBC. Trump says no right of return for Palestinians under Gaza plan. U.S. President Donald Trump has said the 2 million Palestinians who would be resettled in neighboring countries under his plan to take over and rebuild the Gaza Strip would have no right of return. No, they wouldn't, because they're going to have much better housing, he told Fox News. I'm talking about building a permanent place for them. A clip of the interview was released a day after Trump said he was, quote, committed to buying and owning Gaza, despite global condemnation of the plan he unveiled last week. The Palestinian Authority and the armed group Hamas, whose 16-month war with Israel has caused widespread devastation in Gaza, reiterated that Palestinian land was not for sale. But Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu praised Trump's proposal as revolutionary and creative. The UN has warned that any forced displacement of civilians from occupied territory is strictly prohibited under international law and tantamount to ethnic cleansing. BBC. Our take. There are many reasons why I don't think that this Gaza situation will play out the way it is currently being presented by President Trump. I believe he has an ulterior motive for doing this. However, if it does play out that way, not only will it destroy all goodwill between East and West, particularly between the U.S. and the Muslim world, but it will destabilize a number of countries far beyond Palestine. The neighboring Arab nations will rise up against their governments for allowing it to transpire. Not to mention, whichever nations receive the Gaza refugees, as of now, Ireland is being floated by the Israeli defense minister, among others. The international cooperation that we have seen develop in pursuit of a multipolar world order will likely collapse as nations lay blame at one another's feet for allowing it to happen. The only thing that may keep them unified is a collective animus for the U.S. and Israel, and perhaps a desire to seek retribution and justice for engaging in what can only be described as ethnic cleansing. Simply put, prior to October 7th, the Israel-Palestine conflict was not a national security imperative for the United States. But if we pursue this plan, it will become a national security nightmare for us. We would be better off walking away now and allowing them to resume killing one another. Fewer people would probably die. These are just a few reasons why I think Trump is bluffing to some extent, for reasons that I suspect we will soon understand. If he isn't, then he's sacrificing his own ability to negotiate in good faith with just about every world leader of importance, and doing so at the very beginning of his second term. Ghost-based Patrick Henry. And I will counter this opinion by saying Trump doesn't bluff. Not bluffing. But he also doesn't lose. So neither one of those two things is a thing. Next, from Axios, Scoop. FBI finds secret JFK assassination records after Trump order. The FBI just discovered about 2,400 records tied to President Kennedy's assassination that were never provided to a board tasked with reviewing and disclosing the documents, Axios has learned. The still secret records are contained in 14,000 pages of documents the FBI found in a review triggered by President Trump's January 23rd executive order demanding the release of all JFK assassination records. Why it matters. The discovery, 61 years after Kennedy was killed in Dallas, follows decades of government reluctance to release all documents related to the assassination, which fueled a mountain of conspiracy theories. The existence of the new documents was disclosed Friday to the White House when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence submitted his plan to disclose the assassination records under Trump's order. Zoom in! The contents of the newly found records are closely held secrets. The three sources who relayed their existence to Axios said they hadn't seen the documents. Our take. I hate Axios. I deeply resent the way they talk down to their audience. As the topic that got me started down the rabbit hole way back when, the JFK files being declassified is near and dear to my heart. It is something I and countless others have waited on for a large portion of our lives. The American public learning the truth of his assassination is the string to pull that begins to unravel the entire corrupt deep state ball of yarn. As such, I've tempered expectations of the release itself, a cautious optimism, if you will. Why have I been a bit reserved about the files being released? Well, aside from Kash Patel and Ezra Cohen Watnick both telling us not to expect much that we didn't already know, it is one of the worst kept secrets in history that the CIA withheld files from the Warren Commission in public, and that there were files which were never handed over for review or investigation. Many, me included, assumed these lost files would have been long since destroyed. Well, apparently they weren't destroyed. All of a sudden, as the rot is being ripped away from D.C., the FBI has located 2,400 never before reviewed or released files pertaining to the assassination of our 35th president. Quote, the still secret records are contained in 14,000 pages of documents the FBI found in a review triggered by President Trump's January 23rd executive order demanding the release of all JFK assassination records. Quote, the existence of the new documents was disclosed Friday to the White House when the Office of the Director of National Intelligence submitted his plan to disclose the assassination records under Trump's order. Quote, this is huge. It shows the FBI is taking this seriously, said Jefferson Morley, an expert on the assassination and vice president of the nonpartisan Mary Farrell Foundation, the nation's largest source of online records of Kennedy's killing. He sued the U.S. government for more records, end quote. It appears as if Kash and Ezra both were throwing a little bit of a head fake in, saying that some files were never turned over and may have been lost. Will these files contain the bombshells and truth so many of us have been waiting on? Only time will tell, but I'd have to say my optimism over these files being released and the truth being seen has risen significantly. Paul Fleuret. My question is, every time the government engages in crime, they write it down? Okay. Everything they do, everything. Every time they have a thought, write it down. I think that these records are being written after the fact. Why not? Anyway, from the New York Post. Chiefs DeAndre Hopkins pushes for ref controversy after touchy calls in Super Bowl 2025. The third team that was under scrutiny in Super Bowl 2025 was the officiating crew after a postseason in which the perception grew that the NFL wanted the officials to call games to favor the Chiefs. It did not become a big issue in Sunday's game. The refs made some questionable calls, but they went both ways, and the lopsided score made them inconsequential in the 40-22 Eagles win. Chiefs wide receiver DeAndre Hopkins pointed out some calls went against the Chiefs on Sunday. Quote, I saw a lot of things in the media about the refs, but what are you all going to say now about the refs and us? Hopkins said. There was a lot of touchy calls. Are you going to report that? Are you going to talk about the refs now? New York Post. Our take. Wow. The NFL is running the same op in support of its own legitimacy as the regime did with the 2024 election. Donald Trump has an overwhelming public mandate that is clear, obvious, and undeniable to virtually everyone. It's got nothing to do with the number of fake votes in a fake election. Knowing this, from the regime's perspective, the best choice is to accept the Trump victory, frame it in beneficial ways, push uniparty candidates everywhere else, and ride out 4 years of Trump while maintaining permanent control over fake elections. I talked about this for a year before it happened, and it has happened. People can't wait to vote harder in more fake elections. Elections are as fake, as rigged, and as stolen as they were in 2020. But who cares now? As long as Trump solves the whole men and women sports thing, so we don't have to, right? Trump winning a fake election no one anywhere would ever believe he lost without exposing the truth of our fake elections is an op to promote the regime's legitimacy. Running national media stories about people who think the refs have rigged the NFL for Kansas City for weeks before the Super Bowl and then leaving Kansas City to lose, and running stories like this is an op to promote the NFL's legitimacy. We're demanding we get the hose again forever. Chris Paul. No lies detected. I have nothing to disagree with there. But a little bit of a white pill. In his interview with Bret Baier, Donald Trump really pushed back hard on Bret Baier, who said, Kamala still got 75 million votes. And Trump's like, what, are you kidding me? Shut up, you no-neck freak, you little dwarven fag. From usnews.com, U.S. aid failed because foreign aid doesn't work. Elon Musk, head of the new Department of Government Efficiency, didn't mince words when he announced last week that the Trump administration was closing the U.S. Agency for International Development, USAID. He said his team was feeding USAID into the wood chipper and that it was time for it to die. The crudeness might not have been necessary, but the proposal itself was warranted. Foreign aid has too many, often conflicting goals, including promoting democracy, stability, and geopolitical ties. It is long past time for the U.S. government to scrutinize the entire foreign assistance program and recognize that one of the central goals, promoting economic growth, has been a failure. That's why it's a good idea to close down USAID, drop economic development as a goal for U.S. foreign policy, and assign the State Department to manage vital emergency and humanitarian aid. It does, however, need to be done lawfully and in accordance with the Constitution. U.S. News and World Report. Hey, U.S. News and World Report, what part of unitary executive do you not understand? Our take. Listen to this clip. It's got to be listened to over and over again to believe it. And the fact that it's lefty communist slimeball Jon Stewart makes me suspicious.
To be doing, like, there is a lot of waste, fraud, and abuse within a system.
Audits and waste, fraud, and abuse are not the same thing. So let's decompose these.
Please educate me on
sure.
What
so an audit is
difference.
exactly what you just described,
Yes.
which is, do I know what was delivered to which place?
Right.
The ability to pass an audit, or the fact that the DoD has not passed an audit, is not suggestive of waste, fraud, and abuse. That is completely false right there. So
what is
now it's a question of, it's suggestive that we don't have an accurate inventory that we can pull up of what we have where. That is not the same as saying we can't do that because waste, fraud, and abuse has occurred.
So in my world,
Yeah.
that's waste.
How is that waste?
If I give you $1 billion and you can't tell me what happened to it, that to me is wasteful. That means you
Well,
are
we didn't
not responsible. But if you can't tell me where it went, then what am I supposed to think? And when there has been reporting, I mean, this is not, look, I'm not saying this is on you and that you caused this, but I think it's a tough argument to
I'm pretty
make
sure I
that
didn't cause it.
an $850 billion budget to an organization that can't pass an audit and tell you where that money went. Like, I think most people would consider that somewhere in the realm of waste, fraud, or abuse, because they would wonder why that money isn't well accounted for. And especially when they see food insecurity on military bases and they see.
You want to talk about that? Because that's a good, we should be talking. I mean,
Well,
I'm
it's
trying to
all-
understand
is-
where you're trying to go, other than the dollars, which really bother you.
I think it doesn't really bother me. I think it's all connected.
Okay.
I think
Tell
when
me,
I
tell
look,
me that story. Tell me how you're thinking
well,
about that.
when I see a State Department get a certain amount of money and a military budget be 10 times that, and I see a struggle within government to get people like more basic services, and then that department that got that, I mean, we got out of 20 years of war and the Pentagon got a $50 billion raise. Like, that's shocking to me. Now, I may not understand exactly the ins and outs and the incredible magic of an audit, but I'm a human being who lives on the earth and can't figure out how $850 billion to a department means that the rank and file still have to be on food stamps. Like, to me, that's fucking corruption. I'm sorry. And if that blows your mind, and if you think like that's like a crazy agenda for me to have, I really think that that's institutional thinking, and that it's not looking at the day-to-day reality of the people that you call the greatest fighting force in the world. So I get back to this idea of like, I'm not looking to pick a fight with you, but I am surprised at that the reaction to these questions are, you don't know what an audit is, bucko. Like, that's just weird to me.
Okay.
This woman was cast for the purpose of being an insufferable imbecile. I can't think of any other way that I can interpret this. It is breathtaking. Institutional thinking. A perfect description. And after the expose of USAID and other government funding from media and think tanks, it all makes sense to even the uneducated MSNBC viewer. Burn it all down, clean it up, rebuild. Much more streamlined. CanCon's newsletter. From CNN. It's almost science fiction. Scientists say the shape of Earth's inner core is changing. Did they really write this headline? All right, let's go, guys. Scientists who just months ago confirmed that Earth's inner core recently reversed its spin have a new revelation about our planet's deepest secrets. They identified changes to the inner core's shape. Earth's innermost core is a hot, solid ball of metal surrounded by a liquid metal outer core for decades. Planetary scientists suspected that the solid inner core deformed over time as it spun. Now, researchers have found the first evidence of changes taking place over the past 20 years in the shape of the inner core. Signs of the core's deformation appeared in waves from earthquakes that were strong enough to reach Earth's center. The research team used that same earthquake data for a 2024 study to resolve a long-standing debate over the inner core's rotation. They found that the inner core once spun faster than Earth itself. But beginning around 2010, the solid inner core's spin slowed. It's now revolving backward relative to the rest of the planet. CNN. Okay, Here we go. Our take. Many will accuse me of including this story in the Badlands News Brief just so that Patrick Gunnels will react to it on the brief, Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. While that may accurately describe my primary motivation, I do think this is an interesting story. The inner Earth's core started revolving backward relative to the rest of the planet in 2010, and it's a different shape than they previously thought. Now, they can't explain it, but, and this is really important, literally nothing changes in our physical world as a result of these discoveries. The inner core of the Earth can just start going the opposite way of the rest of the planet, and nothing changes on the surface. I know I'm just a lowly science denier, but this is another science thing. It's explained through relativity. Yes, it is, by the way. Oh, is it climate change? Ash in America. She's smarter than you think, guys. Albert Einstein concocted the theory of relativity as a way to reinterpret the null result of the Michelson-Morley experiment, which demonstrated pretty darn conclusively that the Earth wasn't freaking moving. Our heliocentric bullcrap wants us to believe that we are spinning at the equator at approximately 1,000 miles per hour while traveling at approximately 66,600 miles per hour along an elliptical path about the sun. At that speed, and by the way, you can't say, well, you just don't feel it because it's a constant velocity. Bullshit. It's not. You're traveling in an elliptical path, which means direction is changing. What happens when you change directions in a car? Acceleration doesn't have to mean speed changes. It can mean direction changes, and directional changes are felt by those undergoing the directional change. Okay, fine. The directional change power traveling along an elliptical path at 66,600 miles per hour would cause us all to turn to soup. It's all fake. It's all bullshit. And by the way, we've never drilled deeper than 8 miles beneath the Earth's surface. We have no idea what's beneath that. We don't know anything about a core. It's all made up. Next story. From The Independent. Trump gives full pardon to former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. President Donald Trump has issued a full pardon to former Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich. The ex-governor served 8 years behind bars for an array of corruption charges, including trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat following the former president's 2008 election victory. In 2020, Trump commuted Blagojevich's 14-year sentence. Following his impeachment and removal from office, Blagojevich appeared on Trump's Celebrity Apprentice NBC show in 2010 before the beginning of the corruption trial against him. When Trump fired him as a contestant, he took the opportunity to praise Blagojevich. The former governor and Democrat, who was once in office between 2003 and 2009, backed Trump in the 2024 election and attended the Republican National Convention. Blagojevich also supported Trump after he was indicted in the New York hush money case, comparing his own legal problems to Trump's. Quote, "I love Trump more today than ever," he wrote on social media at the time. "When you've lived through it yourself, you recognize when they do it to someone else," he added. Trump signed the pardon on Monday afternoon.
Next, we have a full and unconditional pardon for former Governor Rod Blagojevich of the state of Illinois.
Good. It's my honor to do it. I've watched him. He was set up by a lot of bad people, some of the same people that I had to deal with. He wasn't quite as successful, but he had somebody that saw what was going on. I didn't know him other than I believe he was on The Apprentice for a little while. He was just a very nice person. He had a fantastic wife. She fought like hell to get him out. He was given a sentence of like 18 years. And there was a sort of a terrible injustice. They just were after him. They go after a lot of people. These are bad people, the other side. So I think he's just a very fine person. And this shouldn't have happened, and it shouldn't have happened to him. And let him have a normal life and let him go out and do what he has to do. So I'm signing this as a full pardon. Rod Blagojevich.
Mr. President, are you considering him for ambassador to Serbia?
No, but I would. He's now cleaner than anybody in this room. You got a pardon. He's cleaner than anybody in the room. Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Next. Our take. Rod Blagojevich was a contestant on The Celebrity Apprentice in 2010. President Trump commuted his 14-year sentence in 2020, pulling Blagojevich out of prison after he had served 8 years. This pardon brings that commutation full circle. Blagojevich recently went on Joe Rogan's podcast and explained how Obama and others raked him over the coals because he refused to go along with their schemes. Now the rumor is that Trump will appoint Blagojevich to be the ambassador to Serbia. If you missed it, a few weeks ago, I was joined by Patrick Gunnels on the Book of Trump to discuss The Apprentice and explore the theory that the show was a recruiting operation for Trump's future career in politics. More and more, that theory seems feasible. Ghost of based Patrick Henry. Next, from the New York Post. Elon Musk claims FEMA sent $59 million last week to luxury New York City hotels for illegal migrants, but City Hall says there's more to the story. Elon Musk threatened to claw back $59 million. He said the Federal Emergency Management Agency sent, quote, last week to luxury hotels in New York City to house illegal migrants, a claim that City Hall officials rebutted Monday. The world's richest man said in an early morning post on X that the funds were just discovered by his Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE, even as President Trump called for a complete overhaul of FEMA that could even see it shuttered. Quote, sending this money violated the law and is in gross insubordination to the president's executive order, Musk wrote. City Hall officials told the Post that no one has reached out to action on Musk's demand. New York Post. Our take. The pushback to the money FEMA gave New York City to house migrants is, we've spent $7 billion and FEMA only gave us $247 million, so it's not much. Are they kidding? FEMA is for disaster relief, not disaster funding. That $237 million should be used for one thing, to deport them. Brad Getz. Next. From Financial Reg News. Overhaul U.S. Steel's leadership now that Nippon deal is officially dead, says Ancora. The battle over the future of U.S. Steel escalated on Monday as activist investor Ancora Holdings Group, LLC, called for a major leadership shakeup following the collapse of the company's proposed $14.9 billion sale to Japan's Nippon Steel Corp. In a February 10th letter sent to the U.S. Steel Board of Directors, Ancora executives Frederick DeSanto and James Chadwick reiterated that the deal is dead, citing President Donald Trump's recent comments as confirmation that regulatory approval would not be forthcoming. Quote, President Trump's remarks on Friday should confirm once and for all that the sale has no chance of being resurrected, wrote the Ancora leaders, referring to an announcement made during a February 7th press conference held by Trump after his briefing with Japanese Prime Minister Shigeru Ishiba in Washington, D.C. Ancora, a significant stakeholder in U.S. Steel, praised Trump's stance on protecting American manufacturing and accused U.S. Steel CEO David Burritt of leading the company off a cliff in pursuit of a massive $72 million transaction-related payout. Financial Regulation News. Our take. So now the truth comes out. U.S. Steel CEO David Burritt was pursuing a sale of the company to Tokyo-based Nippon Steel, and the deal stipulated a $72 million transaction-related payout to Burritt. U.S. Steel ostensibly represents the U.S. steel industry. It was founded as a holding company in 1903 by J.P. Morgan, who used it as a vehicle to buy up every steel business in the United States, most of which were located in Trenton, New Jersey, and then moved most of them to Pittsburgh. That's how Pittsburgh became known as the Steel City. So here we are, 122 years later. The heirs of the company are every bit the vultures as its founders, seeking to exploit the American steelworker further by selling off the final pieces of our steel industry to a foreign corporation. Selling out America for a payday. David Burritt would probably make a great politician. It is notable that Joe Biden blocked the sale last month, giving President Trump time to get into office and negotiate this alternative deal. A foreign investment in America's manufacturing core is much more promising than a buyout. Our boy Blue. Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. From CNN. Trump imposes 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum. President Donald Trump on Monday imposed a 25% tariff on all steel and aluminum imports into the United States with no exceptions or exemptions. Although the United States gets most of its steel from Canada, Brazil, and Mexico, the tariffs are largely, albeit indirectly, aimed at China. This is a big deal, making America rich again, Trump said in announcing the tariffs, according to a pool report. CNN. Our take. This is one of those stories that stirs the autism deep in my jimmies. This article mentions China's role in aluminum, referring to the China Hongqiao Group, the world's largest aluminum company by production. It earned that distinction in 2015. Up until that point, it belonged to a Russian company called Rusal, which is now the second largest. Rusal was founded by Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska. That name sounds familiar. It's because Deripaska played a starring role in the Russiagate scandal, allegedly negotiating a $10 million contract in 2017 with Paul Manafort to promote Russian interests in the Trump administration. Deripaska is considered the victor of what is known as the Aluminum Wars of the 1990s, which was effectively a turf war between former Soviet elites to gain control over state assets in the aftermath of the collapse of the USSR. Deripaska is close friends with Nathaniel Rothschild, who was a major investor in the commodity trading company Glencore, a company this newsletter has covered many times. In 2007, Rusal was merged with another aluminum company, Sual Group, as well as Glencore International AG, to form UC Rusal. Deripaska was named chairman. This was the same year that Glencore got into bed with another Israeli oligarch with an adversarial connection to the Trump administration, Dan Gertler. So, how does Rusal fit into this web of conspiracy? In June 2018, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin announced that Rusal, as well as Deripaska's other company, EN Plus Group, was being targeted by the U.S. government for evading sanctions imposed on Russian companies. Mnuchin accused Deripaska of instigating the violence in eastern Ukraine and implied accusations of money laundering and bribery. This resulted in Rusal's top executives resigning, including Deripaska, who was later targeted with sanctions by Vladimir Putin after he criticized the decision to invade Ukraine in 2022. I'm assuming Deripaska is the one who criticized the decision. It's a little ambiguous referent. It certainly feels like the dragnet is tightening. Are the oligarchs who control the world's resources being taken down? Ghost of Base Patrick Henry. Speaking of Mnuchin, this week on Badlands Story Hour, Chris Paul and I are going to discuss The Accountant, which tells the story of an autist who either becomes embroiled in or perhaps foments a conspiracy in the U.S. Treasury. Oh, and it was produced by Steve Mnuchin. Tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Burning Bright. Next, from Axios. This is an exciting story. Elon Musk is trying to buy OpenAI. Elon Musk has offered to buy the operating assets of OpenAI for $97.4 billion, Axios has learned from multiple sources, in a move that could turn the burgeoning AI industry on its head. Why it matters: Musk is putting pressure on OpenAI CEO Sam Altman, who's trying to restructure the company by separating its nonprofit board control from its for-profit business. It's not clear if Altman and the nonprofit board have yet agreed to a transition price, let alone how that might compare to the Musk offer. Altman responded to the news by posting on X, "No, thank you, but we will buy Twitter for $9.74 billion if you want." Behind the scenes, Musk may just be trolling OpenAI as part of his ongoing litigation against the organization. Axios. Our take. Oh, wow. DeepSeek was the catalyst. The leading defense contractor is going to be the new face of the technology that the government owned the whole time. Again, get out. What are they going to tell us next? That Trump owns TikTok or something? Chris Paul. Next, from the New York Times. Mace takes to House floor with charges of rape and sexual predation. Representative Nancy Mace, the South Carolina Republican who in recent weeks has floated a run for governor, on Monday night accused her former fiancé and 3 other men of having drugged and raped her and other women, and of filming and taking lewd photographs of women and underage girls without their consent, in a stunningly graphic speech on the House floor that had little precedent. Ms. Mace said the men, whom she named and displayed photographs of on a placard where lawmakers more typically display charts and graphs on policy issues, were involved in the, quote, premeditated, calculated exploitation of innocent women and girls in my district. On the floor of the House, Ms. Mace was protected by the speech and debate clause, even as she accused the men of repeatedly assaulting incapacitated women and filming it. The New York Times. Our take. I watched the whole video. It's an hour, and it is deeply disturbing. The ring, she describes, the treatment by officials and law enforcement, the level of documentation she claims to have. South Carolina inquiries must be incoming. South Carolina Attorney General Alan Wilson, whom Mace accuses of killing the investigation, protecting rapists, and threatening to investigate and arrest her, Mace, claims she never brought this to him, calling Mace's allegations as, quote, categorically false. Making things in the House a bit more awkward, Wilson's adoptive father, is Mace's colleague, Congressman Joe Wilson, Republican of South Carolina. As the New York Times said, Mace's speech has little precedent, and it comes with little legal risk for the Congresswoman. She enjoys the same protections as Adam Schiff when speaking on the floor. I encourage everyone to watch Mace's speech. It's time for the darkness to come into the light. Ash in America. Now, I want to talk to you about Epic Minerals, the humic and fulvic acid regimen that can radically improve your health. I have spoken to you about Zeolite Extra spray with humic and fulvic acids, and I want to talk to you about it again. This is a spray that you spray right into your mouth. You do it every single day. The results are immediate. But after a month or 6 weeks, the results become categorically noticeable. And what are those results? Detoxification, better sleep, better brain activity. You're going to start remembering your dreams again. That's some amazing stuff right there. And we believe it happens because of decalcification in the thought patterns of the brain. Furthermore, microplastics and heavy metals wash out of the body with Zeolite Extra spray. Similar effects can be garnered with colloidal silver extra spray, also at epicminerals.net. And finally, top it off with Wellness Extra capsules, which is humic and fulvic acid, N-acetyl-L-cysteine, also known as NAC, one of the best detoxifiers out there, vitamin D, and a complex of micronutrients. All three of these tools, amazing for your health. Check it out at epicminerals.net. That's epicminerals.net. Use promo code BADLANDS for 10% off. And don't forget, every single time you use that promo code, 25% of that sale goes directly into an account that pays Badlanders' salaries. Go to epicminerals.net. Get started on getting healthy today. Next, bonus items. From the National Pulse, Trump orders an end to the penny. President Trump has called for the discontinuation of producing new pennies by the U.S. Treasury. The decision was unveiled through a post on social media where Trump highlighted the financial inefficiency associated with penny production as the primary motivation for his proposal. The cost implications he referred to revolve around the expense of manufacturing a single penny, which currently exceeds 2 cents. These production costs have been a point of concern, evidenced by last year's U.S. Mint report, which indicated that the process of making and distributing each penny amounts to more than 3.5 cents. National Pulse did the math last night. My wife pointed out that the materials themselves don't cost that. It's the production and circulation that add to the price. And I did the math on based on the current price of copper and the current price of zinc, bearing in mind that pennies today are 97.5% zinc and 2.5% copper. If you do the math on that, the actual materials in the penny, given the weight of a penny, which I think is 2.5 grams, I did the math last night, 0.08 ounces. Wait, or is it 0.008? No, it's 0.08 ounces. Anyway, it comes to $0.0075, which is basically 3/4 of a penny. I'm sorry, 3/4 of a cent. And so it's not the materials. Materials cost less than a cent. But everything else, the labor, the manufacturing, whatever contract is being made to produce those things, that's where the money is being made. So we think Trump is negotiating a better deal on that stuff. Could be wrong. Who knows? Next. From Politico, FBI must disclose more info about Trump classified docs case, judge rules. The dismissal of criminal charges against Donald Trump for concealing classified records at Mar-a-Lago eliminated a significant barrier to making records about the probe public, a federal judge ruled Monday. U.S. District Judge Beryl Howell said Trump's election as president, which forced the end of the criminal case, combined with the Supreme Court's ruling on presidential immunity, mean Trump is effectively insulated from any criminal responsibility for his conduct. That means the FBI's previous reasons for refusing to gather and disclose records related to the probe no longer apply, Howell wrote in a ruling in the Freedom of Information Act case brought by journalist Jason Leopold. She noted that while the dismissal of charges against Trump may have reduced his criminal exposure, it ironically made him more susceptible to public scrutiny for his conduct. Politico. Whatever. Next, from OAN. Musk says he is not planning to buy TikTok. Elon Musk has stated that he is not planning to buy the TikTok app or has any plans with what he would do with it if he were to own it. On Saturday, the Welt Group released a video from the Welt Economic Summit, which was held January 28th, in which Musk made the remarks regarding the application. Quote, "I haven't made a bid for TikTok, nor do I have any plans regarding what I would do if I owned it," Musk said. Musk previously stated that he usually does not buy companies, with Twitter, now X, being the exception to protect freedom of speech. The Biden administration previously ordered TikTok's Chinese parent company ByteDance to sell the platform, which has around 170 million US-based users, due to national security reasons. Next, from Newsweek. Eric Adams gets lifeline from Donald Trump's DOJ. A senior official at the U.S. Department of Justice has directed federal prosecutors to dismiss charges against New York Mayor Eric Adams, a Democrat known for his close ties to President Trump, in a two-page memo obtained by the Associated Press. Acting Deputy Attorney General Emil Bove, a former prosecutor in the Manhattan office that brought the case, stated that the decision to drop the charges was made without evaluating the strength of the prosecution and was not intended to undermine the attorneys who filed the case. However, Bove noted timing of the charges and more recent actions by former U.S. Attorney Damian Williams had compromised the integrity of the proceedings. He cited concerns over increased prejudicial pretrial publicity, which he warned could influence potential witnesses and the jury pool. The move follows months of speculation that Trump's Justice Department might intervene to end the criminal case against Adams, who was accused of accepting bribes in the form of free or discounted travel and illegal campaign contributions. Whatever. Trumped up crap because he didn't play ball with these demons. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Make sure to visit our sponsors. That's right. You got to visit our sponsors. That would be River Bitcoin. That's badlandsmedia.tv/River. Bitcoin interest on cash, and epicminerals.net. Get those heavy metals out of your body now. Don't wait. Use promo code Badlands on both. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Hit that thumbs up if you like it. And if you don't like it, hit that thumbs up anyway, because it's just polite. We have Badlands Daily coming up next. Don't forget, this time, I believe it should be CanCon and the ghost of based Patrick Henry. Enjoy, everybody. I'll see you soon.
Thank you so much for joining us, and don't forget to hit the thumbs up on this video. And a special thank you to all of our advertising partners. Please remember to shift your dollars to support those businesses that support Badlands Media.